We'll move on to the final day. Of course, we'll talk about the Gold Cup in a moment. The day starts with a Triumph Hurdle. Alan King's got a pretty strong hand at Cheltenham this year, and Franchuk. It's not with Andrew, it's not at the other end of the table this time. What's your view here?
Franchuk probably has got a very similar profile to Catchit, but won it last year for the same yard. But whereas Catchit was 11-2 on the day, Franchuk's going to be around about 9-4, and for me, it's a no-play race.
Right. I think it's a great race to bet in now. I remember when we were kids, like the Triumph Hurdle, like, you know, finding a winner, you know, was like finding a pub in South London where you didn't get glass. It was a marvellous experience. It was, you know, you just 40 runner fields, everything got held up, you know. It was a joke, but the last 3 years you had Penzance winning, Catchit in Detroit City. It's a good race now because all the rubbish runs in the Fred Winter. Franchuk, for me, is just, with that Harper Valley defeat, he just sort of like, when Harper Valley done it for a turn of foot, and there's a 69 rated flat horse, whatever. I just wonder whether coming down the hill he will get beaten by the better flat animals. I've been told Binoculars not going to run in this race. I've been told he goes straight to Aintree, that knocks that out. Ascahar, of course, will leave this race behind in the race when it comes cantering and falls, and poor old Matty's crying his eyes out, and the old tanning booth goes skid down the road.
I suppose if Century Duty bolts in on the first day, because he hammered Celestial Halo, that would be quite a point in Celestial Halo.
The one thing about, you know, we read Paul Nicholls' column in the Racing Post, he's so honest, isn't he? He's so good, you know, even when Denman, when I laid it in the Hennessy, in the Hennessy, he did say the horse, you know, was overweight, and it probably was. He just won it on ability. I remember the old days I was at the Sporting Knife, we used to get Martin Pipe's copy in, and it was like, good chance, each way, yes, possible, you know, it was absolute bollocks. And I used to get Henry Cecil's article in, like, yes, I've been out doing the roses, the rhododendrons are coming well, what about the horses, Henry? Fuck them, what about the roses? I mean, you actually get Paul Nicholls' column, it's different class, isn't it? He comes on, he's honest, he's truthful, you know, people slag him off on the forums, the maniacs when they get out of Rampton after the EST treatment, they get on the old forums and they tapping away like... Paul's just marvellous for racing, he's tremendous the way he's done it, and he's very honest, and he was very honest after Celestial Halo got beat. He said, I undercooked it, I thought I was going out for an easy race, I should have got more work into it. I think as an horse who was, you know, only beaten 3 lengths in the St Leger, maybe should have been a bit closer to Century Duty, but he was a good horse in his own right. He's an 100 rated flat horse. I think he'll have Celestial Halo bang on right, and all the vibes I'm getting from the Nicholls yard of the horse is absolutely flying. It works at home with Ripperton Ring. You may get a clue from how he runs in the Supreme Novice, but I think in the end, Franchuk's a 69 horse, this is a 110 horse, you know, it's got to make a difference in the end, and I think Celestial Halo will win. I think is a value bet in the race, I really do. Because the last 3 runs when the Fred Winter hasn't been there, and horse has won in a single price figure.
And although he got beaten, Kieran, at Towcester when Century Duty beat him, in fact he was pulling away from the third horse, he was well clear of the third horse.
It was indeed. I think it's one of those where you almost take your form hat off. I think there's definitely an angle here. I think Franchuk is some way ahead of them on what he's achieved. I share Mark's concerns about something just doing for a bit of toe. What I would say about Celestial Halo on our ratings, in 5 Dream they've got the second best juvenile hurdler, and it looks like they're going somewhere else with 5 Dream, which almost tells you all you need to know about Celestial Halo. Presumably he's rated considerably better at home than 5 Dream. 5 Dream's handicap form at Cheltenham is absolutely solid as. And they're not going to run the horse. Take him out and there's a yawning gap to the others, and again agree with Couch, I think it's potentially a 2-horse race. He still concerns me slightly temperament-wise, Celestial Halo. I don't think he was the easiest. He probably didn't live up to his reputation with Barry Hills. I know Jack Hansen, his owner on the flat, had real high hopes for Celestial Halo, and there just was that slight concern whether he'd really go through with things. But Paul Nicholls is an outstanding trainer, and repeatedly he said he's better than meeting, and yet he's still, you know, second favourite about 6-1. That speaks for itself. I think he's a knocking bet.
And Matt, you were rabbiting on earlier about Ashkazar for the Imperial Cup on Saturday. What's the view here? He's got to get through that hoop first.
Yeah, I have him on my mind for this race. Let's hope he just wins on Saturday. It's interesting that Jack Hansen, obviously, he's been a big punter in his time. He's had a couple of horses like the horse we're talking about here. He had a horse called The Last Drop, a bit like Celestial Halo. He would cruise round and find absolutely nothing when you wanted it to go and win a race, The Last Drop. And I just wonder if Celestial Halo is a bit like that, in that he could run well in a Group 1 race like the St Leger. You stick it in a cellar and it would come there cruising as well.
I agree with you, Matt. I've got to stop you. It ran very well in the Melrose. There's an 18-runner handicap at the Eborn meet. It was second off the mark of 96. to Speed Gifted of Lucas. I agree with what you said there.
Speed Gifted who will win the Melbourne Cup.
But again, the fact that it had run one in an handicap, and the fact that again with Celestial last year, it's had his bollocks off as well. Yeah. It's been gelded, and also the other thing was that it's had a tongue tie on which he never had with Barry. I think them two things have improved it, but he did run very well in a handicap, and you know it's got two very good runs to it.
I'm not saying it won't win. I just think as a punter it becomes trendy to go away from the obvious. You know, you say to your mate, "Oh, I fancy Franchett," and just look at you and say, "Well, who cares?" But at the end of the day, for me, I think, Couch, you've hit the nail on the head. You dilute a race meeting, as Cheltenham have done by making it 4 days. You dilute your Grade 1 races. The Triumph Hurdle, I think the days of an It-Down coming in at 66 to 1 have gone.
Thank for that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's good in some ways. It's bad in others because you never get the odd thrill. But I think absolutely he's hit the nail on the head. There was also a time when the Triumph Hurdle winner always went on to the World Hurdle. And you didn't worry about turn of foot or things like that. It was always considered a stayers event to Triumph for these juveniles.
Well, like see you then in Crebensis.
Well, there are always exceptions, but I can't remember that Ferdy Earthy horse. It was considered to win the Triumph you needed stamina. And
I still think you do, mate. I still think again being a ledger if I'm trying to have horses off the flat, I always look for them to win over a mile 6. I don't want mile 4.
Yeah.
Mile 2. Istibrak won over a mile 6 on the flat.
Couch, I'm not saying Celestial won't win. I'm just saying that I'm desperately trying to say it without using the Ashford phrase, but what else can Franchett do? He's won every trial impressively.
He hasn't. He hasn't. He got beat by Harper Valley.
Well, okay, on one occasion. But he's come out and bounced back. Harper Valley would be $1 million in this race. You've got to say he ran below 4 minutes.
Again, you could down to like horse's ability, and like, that was a 69 flat horse, and like you know.
Yeah, but Make a Stand was a claiming horse on the flat and won the champion hurdle.
Yeah, he was trained by Henry Candy, not Martin Pike.
Yeah, I know, but he still wouldn't have been a top performer on the flat. But of course, there are going to be exceptions to the rule. Make a Stand wasn't.
The one thing about it, Matt, is I know that Paul ran Tatton against Franchett just to have a look. And you know, Pierre Luinier was close up behind binocular. You know, as Kieran said about 5 Dream was going to be top weight in the juicing, I've been told, to keep the weights down for Chateau Freedom. Paul knows where he stands with them all, and he always said Celestial stones are better than him. He knows where he stands with the juvenile form.
I think ability-wise, what you're saying is absolutely right. He may well be the best horse in the race, but the thing that really worried me is he didn't jump well at Doncaster. If he's had essential schooling or something and he jumps better, then he's got every chance, but he didn't jump.
Again, talking to Paul, he said to me that when he first got him, it was a natural from day one. I remember back in Alderbrook to win the champion hurdle at the Life, and he'd only had one hurdle, and Norman Williams said he was a natural from day one. I think horses either do or don't take to hurdling. And Celestial was brilliant first time at Newbury. The second time, Paul, as he said, you know, just let down on the horse a bit. Maybe he got a bit lackadaisical with the schooling. Now again, he's been pinging them at home again, and I think we'll see the Celestial we see at Newbury be prettiest, who is a bad form and come out in one at Warwick. And again, the other thing, Matt's the price, 9 to 4, 6 to 1.
Yeah, of course. I'm still going to stick with Franchett. I think it's a good thing. Everything will be played up from English Drever on Franchett.